Welcome back to the Yes Initiative. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about salads and salad dressings and vinaigrettes. This is a very refreshing thing to eat in the summertime when it's hot outside, as well as it's a good way to get an understanding about what you're really putting on your greens when you make a salad. So the first thing I want to talk about is some of the most basic ingredients, and then we're going to actually make a couple things. All the links to the recipes are right below in the description for this video, so you can get recipes and follow along if you'd like. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is what a vinaigrette is and what a dressing is and what the differences between the two of them are. A vinaigrette is oil and vinegar mixed together. It shows up in different ways. Sometimes you'll see a broken vinaigrette, meaning that the vinegar and the oil will separate and you'll actually be able to see the two things. So we're going to make a vinaigrette like that today. The second type of vinaigrette you'll see is much thicker and would be what you probably could think of as a dressing. And that is called an emulsified vinaigrette. We're going to make one of those today as well. And then you have dressing. Now, what makes dressing different than a vinaigrette is that it contains raw egg. We are not really going to be making a dressing today because instead of using a blender and a raw egg and basically making mayonnaise, that's what mayonnaise is oil and egg, we're going to just be using mayonnaise. So the three dressings, or three salad toppings, I guess you could say, that we're going to make is a broken vinaigrette with balsamic vinegar and olive oil. And that's really it. We're going to put a little bit of salt in there and nothing else. We're going to be making a red wine vinaigrette with a little bit of honey and shallots. And that one will be emulsified, and I will teach you how to do that as we go. We're going to emulsify it with a little bit of mustard. And then the last thing we're going to make is a dressing, because technically it will have an egg product in there, and that will be ranch dressing. And I will show you how to make that. And that one will be very different than the first two we make. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about our ingredients for salad toppings, dressings, vinaigrettes, etc. In front of me here I've got a few different things. So I've got 4 different vinaigrettes over here. 4 different vinegars over here. And I've got 3 different oils over here. So let's start by talking about the vinegar, because the vinegar is one of the main flavoring ingredients that we are going to have. So I have a range of vinegars. First, we have distilled white vinegar. This doesn't have much flavor at all. So keep that in mind. This is the type of thing that you're going to add just for some tanginess. What do I mean by tanginess? Think of hot wings and that sort of tang that it's got. Or if you are thinking of ranch dressing, how it's got a little bit of a sour note to it. This is actually what we're going to be using for the ranch dressing vinegar. But other than that acidic principle that it's got, and it's going to give you, it's going to get you right here. That's the feeling when you have vinegar. Doesn't have a whole lot of flavor other than that. Now we're getting into still a light vinegar, but much more flavor. This is champagne vinegar. So as the name implies, champagne vinegar, it is made from champagne. So in our hierarchy of things as we go along, we're going from lighter to darker. As you can see, there's a little bit more color in this one, and also a lot more flavor. Okay, our next vinegar is red wine vinegar. This is an aged red wine vinegar. You don't have to use aged red wine vinegar or red vinegar at all. You could use so many different kinds. Apple cider vinegar, sherry vinegar. There's lots and lots of different kinds of vinegar. We are going to be using this one today in our emulsified vinaigrette. with shallots and mustard and honey and oil. And then that is going to bring me to the last vinegar I have here. This is balsamic vinegar. So this is the darkest color and actually the thickest vinegar that we have. It's also very sweet, so here. And part of the reason it's so dark is because the flavor is concentrated. Alright, let's briefly talk about our oils. So, we've got 3 different types of oil here. First one I'm going to talk about is corn oil. Or any vegetable oil, canola oil, anything like that. Sometimes you'll even see on the package it'll call it salad oil. Or any vegetable oil, canola oil, anything like that. Sometimes you'll even see on the package it'll call it salad oil. This is a pretty low flavor oil, so it's not going to pack a lot of flavor. It's not going to contribute to our salad dressing if we use it in that. So if you are not fond of a particular flavor of oil, like olive oil has a fairly pronounced flavor, use an oil with less flavor like a corn oil or something that you might use for frying. That will work out nicely for you. This is another oil I happen to have around the house. This is extra light tasting olive oil. And you can see right on it says for frying and baking. Basically what that means is it's got a high smoke point. So if you were to put this in a pan and turn fire on underneath it, it would take a while for it would be at a high temperature before it starts to actually smoke, and you would see smoke. So this again is going to be a pretty neutral oil, something without a lot of flavor, something that we can use in a salad dressing, and it's not going to be like, whoa, that's definitely olive oil. It's going to be mild. And then the last one I've got here, this is a super fancy, expensive extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin means that this is the first pressing of the olives. So basically, if you were to take the olives and grind them, the oil that comes out right in the beginning is what this is going to be, extra virgin olive oil. And this does have a lot of flavor. It's also got a lot of color. So if you were to compare our light olive oil and corn oil, they'd both be... This is a pretty low flavor oil, so it's not going to pack a lot of flavor. It's not going to contribute to our salad dressing if we use it in that. So if you are not fond of a particular flavor of oil, like olive oil has a fairly pronounced flavor, use an oil with less flavor like a corn oil or something that you might use for frying. That will work out nicely for you. This is another oil I happen to have around the house. This is extra light tasting olive oil. And you can see right on it says for frying and baking. Basically what that means is it's got a high smoke point. So if you were to put this in a pan and turn fire on underneath it, it would take a while for it would be at a high temperature before it starts to actually smoke. And you would see smoke. So this, again, is going to be a pretty neutral oil, something without a lot of flavor. And then the last one I've got here, this is a super fancy, expensive, extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin means that this is the first pressing of the olives, extra virgin olive oil. And this does have a lot of flavor. It's also got a lot of color. So if you were to compare our light olive oil and corn oil, they'd both be pretty similar, not too dark, kind of a light golden color. This one is probably going to be pretty green. Let me show you what I mean just before we actually make our first dressing. Extra light olive oil side by side, it's very different colors. One almost looks like water and one has quite a color to it. First one we're going to make is going to be with the olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and balsamic vinegar, and just a little bit of salt. And we're not going to add anything else to it. So to make this broken vinaigrette, we are just going to use a simple ratio. And if you're not really sure what a ratio is, it's kind of like a fraction. So we are going to use 1 part balsamic vinegar to 3 parts olive oil. So to do that, I'm going to put in about 1.5 ounces of balsamic vinegar. And then I'm going to put in about 5 to 6 ounces of extra virgin olive oil. Now it may look like I'm not really measuring, but that's because I do this for a living. I'm pretty used to amounts of things, as well as I know that this cup right here is a 4-ounce cup. So I know if I put that in, and then just a bit more, I'm at the 5 ounces that I want. Now, this is what I meant by broken vinaigrette. You can see it is separated out. You've got all the balsamic on the bottom and all the olive oil on the top. Now we're just going to add a pinch of salt. And our dressing is done. So that is the beauty of this dressing, is it's really simple, really quick to make. Doesn't take any time or difficulty or cutting or anything. That's all you got to do is mix a little bit like this, and it's ready to go on your salad. And it does have the added effect of looking pretty cool if you put it on a plate. So if you take this and mix it up a little bit so that you don't get just oil, it has this really cool effect on a plate or on a salad where you kind of get these little dots inside of olive oil. So this is dressing number 1, and this is by far the healthiest dressing that we can do. Although it is a lot of olive oil, it's not going to take a lot of this on your salad to give it some flavor. Now we're going to put this to the side, and this is a theme that you're going to see throughout this video. We're going to make more than, clearly, this is more than 1 serving of salad dressing. When you're done using this today or the one time that you need it, you can stick it in your fridge and it's not going to go bad. This can stay in your fridge for like a month to 2 months. And then instead of deciding, oh, I want a salad and need to make a salad dressing, you just grab it out of your fridge and it's done. Now, we are going to make our second salad dressing. And for this one, we do need to cut some things, and it's slightly more labor intensive. Okay, so first thing we're going to need to know is we need a bowl and we need a whisk. You really won't be able to make an emulsified salad dressing without it. And if we're still confused about what emulsified means, by the time I'm done making this dressing and I put it in a little cup and show it to you, there probably will not be any more confusion. Okay, so I grabbed a few more ingredients. I grabbed a shallot. I grabbed honey. And I grabbed Dijon mustard. We've already got our red wine vinegar. And we're going to be using just a little bit of this extra light tasting olive oil. I think that'll be a good one to use. The first thing we need to do is cut up our shallot. So, cut the end off, and then you're going to stand it up, cut it in half, and peel the skin off. For the amount we're using, we're probably only going to need half of it. You could use either half, it doesn't matter. Now we do want to cut this really, really small, because if anyone has ever had raw shallot, it's just like raw onion. It's got a strong taste. So as fine as you can, as small of a little dice that you can. That is what we're looking for. And again, we went one way, then we went the other way. And that's what we're looking for. So this is probably about a tablespoon of shallot. And we're going to add that into our bowl. Okay, so it's just some shallot in the bowl. Now we're going to add a pinch of salt. It's about a half a teaspoon. And we're going to add just about the same amount of shallot that we have in there. We're going to add just about the same amount of mustard. Okay? Now this is Dijon mustard. So it does have kind of like a little bit of spiciness to it, but just about a tablespoon of that. And this is what is going to allow us to emulsify our salad, our vinaigrette. And it is important to follow the actual steps here in terms of what you put in and when. Okay, next we're going to add a little bit of honey. Now this is going to add some sweetness because red wine vinegar is not super sweet on its own. And in most salad dressings that you will end up eating, what really tastes good is a balance of some sweet, some salty, some acidic from the vinegar, and some creaminess from the oil. Okay, so we're going to add just about the same amount that we did with the mustard. Maybe a little bit less, just about a tablespoon. And again, that's what that looks like there. Okay, and now we're going to add our vinegar. And we only want to put, again, about an ounce and a half, maybe 2 ounces. And we're going to add about 4 to 6 ounces of oil to this. Okay, so before we mix this up at all, this is the look we've got. It's kind of pink, and the other stuff isn't moving. And then we're going to use our whisk. Okay, now we've still got a very thin looking thing here. And the real secret is adding the oil slowly. Okay, so we're going to add the oil very, very slowly. And make sure you don't stop whisking. If you stop whisking, it's going to end up broken just like the other one we made. And what you should see as you're whisking this is it should look like it's getting a little thicker. It shouldn't stay the same consistency as the vinegar all alone. Okay? And it's going to get shiny. So as you can see, it's already a little bit thicker. We've only added about half of our oil so far. And once you have a base and it's started to thicken, you can add it a little bit quicker because it is rather hard to pour something and whisk at the same time. Now you can really start to see that effect where it's not splashing around. It's much thicker now. Okay, and now you can see the color has changed. It's not really that dark brownish color anymore. It's a much lighter yellow color. And if we put it in something, one of the things you can tell right away is that it's got the same color throughout. So this is what is an emulsified vinaigrette. Now if you look, we ended up with just about the same amounts of dressing. So that's how we know we're following the recipe right. And this is probably enough salad dressing for 5 or 6 different times. Okay, now let's move on to our last one, the ranch. The one I think everyone is probably the most excited about. Okay, so to start this off, we just need to clean out our bowl again. Make sure we have a clean whisk. Now this one has a lot more ingredients than our previous dressings and vinaigrettes. So let me grab those. Okay, so to make ranch dressing, we are going to need some minced onions or onion powder, garlic powder, basil, dry thyme, and dry parsley. We're also going to need mayonnaise, sour cream, and distilled white vinegar. Alright, so we're going to start with the sour cream and the mayonnaise. Let's get us a couple spoons, put that in there. So for the sour cream, you want about a half a cup, maybe a little bit less, probably 3 ounces of sour cream. Now you want mayonnaise. You're going to add just a tiny bit more mayo than you did sour cream. Again, about a half a cup. Somewhere between 3 and 5 ounces. And again, we can give that a little mix up there. Now, if you look at it early on, what you're going to notice is it's a lot thicker than your average ranch dressing. That's where the distilled vinegar is going to come in handy. But before we add that, let's add all our seasonings. So, we want to add a little bit of garlic powder. Just a couple shakes. Garlic powder is pretty strong. Onion powder, similar thing, just a couple shakes. The beauty of this is if you taste it when it's done and you decide, oh, it doesn't have enough seasoning, you can just add a little bit more seasoning. That is not a big deal. Okay, so let's add a little bit of thyme. So it's not a whole lot of thyme, but it is going to add a whole lot of flavor. Now with the basil, we're going to add a little bit more. Comparatively, it's probably going to look like about twice as much basil as you did thyme. And that's about a 1/4 teaspoon. And then parsley, again, we're going to go up just a little bit more. And add about a full teaspoon's worth. Let's clean off our cutting board. Now we're going to add a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, black pepper. If you don't like pepper, you don't have to add that ingredient. And we're going to add some salt. About a teaspoon of salt. So now we've got all our ingredients in there, and we can just start to mix that up. We're going to add just about 1 tablespoon of distilled vinegar. And this is going to give it that perfect tanginess. And we're done. Okay. So now that we've mixed our ranch dressing all together, we can put it into a container. And again, what we're left with is a beautiful looking ranch dressing. Now let's talk actual salad for a second. If we're going to make a salad, what are we going to put in it? Well, we're definitely going to put some leafy greens, right? So that could be romaine lettuce or bib lettuce or iceberg lettuce, whatever kind of lettuce they have at your grocery store and looks fresh to you. Now, what else are we going to put in there? Just lettuce, or are we going to put some other things? Well, that's up to you. That's the cool part about a salad. You can really put whatever you want in there. Whatever you like in terms of creamy dressing or very flavorful dressing or very healthy dressing, you now know how to do it.
If you like these videos, turn on notifications and press subscribe.